Hi everyone, Lara from Complete Test Success here, and today we're looking at General Training IELTS Writing Task 1. So if you're new to these live streams, just let me explain. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a General Training Task 1 question, and together we're going to write the answer. So I'll give you a task, and then you will, respond to the task in the comments. I'll bring up your response on screen, and I'll give you feedback. So, in relation to task achievement, coherence and cohesion, vocab, grammar, I will explain the things you're doing wrong. And then with that information, you can avoid those mistakes or you can improve on those weaknesses, and that will help you improve your IELTS scores. So that's essentially what we are doing today. So my first task for you is this. I want you to write the greeting for the letter. So this is where we write dear something. So it's the first part of every answer, dear something. So depending on the question, it will be different. The way you respond will be different depending on the question. So for this particular question, I want you to write your response. So in the comments, share your response for this. Dear what? What would you say? Dear what? Sorry about that. Okay, so again, write your response. Write your greeting, I mean. So we basically have three options. We're going to say dear and the first name. So let's say dear Lar, or dear Mr. or Mrs. and surname. So for example, dear Mr. Ryan. And the third option is to write dear Sir or Madam. Now, only one of those options is correct. Only one of those options is correct, and it depends on the information you see in the question. So you need to read the question and you need to decide which of those is the suitable, the appropriate choice for this question. Okay, so numbers are quite small here today. And the reality is that the majority of students do academic IELTS. So generally, it'll be somewhere around 3/4 of students do academic, and about 1/4 of candidates are for general training. So it might just be the case that we don't have any general training students today. Oh, here's Alva. Hi, Alva. And Alva responds, Dear Linda. Perfect. Dear Linda is the appropriate response because we're writing to a friend. So if you're writing to a friend, then it will be dear and the person's first name. One thing there, Alva, is you did not include a comma at the end. The comma is important, so we'll need to include that comma there. And that is our greeting. Perfect. Okay, so let me just tidy this up. The information that we have at the top and the bottom of the question isn't relevant anymore. So I'm just going to remove that so that I can free up some space on the screen. And that brings us to the next prompt, or the first prompt. So what we need to do next is we need to respond to that first prompt, the prompt that says, tell him or her about your good news. So a photograph you submitted to your local art gallery has been selected to feature in an upcoming exhibition. So that's the good news. And our first prompt, tell your English speaking friend about your good news. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to just write the first sentence of paragraph 1. And the reason I want you to write the first sentence is that we will always have a direct response to the prompt in the first sentence. So tell him or her about your good news. So we're not going to start by saying, I have some good news. You don't start by saying you have good news. The prompt asked you to tell him or her about the good news. So in the first sentence, we're going to say what the good news is. And that's why for now, I just want you to write the first sentence of paragraph 1. And when you're ready, share that with me in the comments, and I'll have some feedback for you. Ahmed says, Dear Sammy, again, that would be perfect. Obviously, no brackets, but I think you know that already. But like the same thing that Alva did, you don't have a comma at the end, and that comma is necessary. So for correct punctuation, we need that grammar. We need that comma. Okay, so write the first sentence of paragraph 1 and share that with me when you're ready. Ahmed, I used the brackets to show that it was just an example. No, I was guessing that, but just to make sure, or for any other students watching, just to make sure that they know. Yeah, so any first name is appropriate, and then the comma. So that because we're writing to a friend, we will write the first name. It is informal, and to write the first name is also informal. So we need to match the tone. So that's why we write dear first name and comma. Thank you, Ahmed. Okay, so we have a response here from Alva. I'm just writing to tell you that my hometown gallery has decided to use one of my photos for their next summer's exhibition. Absolutely perfect. That's a great response, Alva. So I'm just going to take Alva's response and add that to our to what we've written so far. So this is the first sentence of paragraph 1. I'm writing to tell you that my hometown gallery has decided to use one of my photos for their next summer. It would be in, not for, but in the exhibition, in their exhibition next summer. Okay, fantastic. So just some small little grammar things, But what we have is a direct response. So tell him or her about your good news. We've done that. Perfect. So a direct response is always going to make sure that you're fully developing your answer, because your task achievement score is about the development. So first you need to give a direct response. That's the first part. And after that, it's developing the response. So if we said something like, I'm writing to let you know that I have some good news that I would like to share with you, but we don't say what the news is, then we still haven't answered the prompt. And because we've written that first, we end up with less development. So put that response, just like Alva did, in the first sentence. And then for the rest of the paragraph, we will develop that idea. Now, we have to talk about this and only this. We can't move on to another topic. So what I want you to do is to write the rest of the paragraph. So how would we develop the rest of paragraph 1? We need about 60 words. And so far we have 23. Okay, so we're looking for about another 37 words where we're just still completely focused on this idea here. So we're going to give more information about this. Keep in mind, in the next paragraph, we need to describe the photograph, so we shouldn't talk about that. And in the final paragraph, we need to invite our friend to attend the exhibition with us, so we should not write about that. Stay completely focused on this prompt about your good news. So that's what I want you to do next. Develop the rest of paragraph 1 in relation to what Alva has written, in relation to what we have on screen, and then we will move on to the next paragraph. Kumar, we wouldn't say a great news because the word news is an uncountable noun. So I have some great news for you, comma, and you would be excited about that. So this is what I was saying earlier on. At the moment, you haven't said what your good news is. So don't allude to it. Don't just don't mention that you have good news. The prompt has asked you to tell him about your good news. So start by saying what your good news is. So just try to jump straight into the paragraph instead of, some kind of background vague information first. So you'll help your task achievement score by just jumping straight into the response. Ahmed, it's been a long time, Sammy. Now, there's nothing wrong with writing that. There's nothing wrong with saying something like that. But the other side of it is it doesn't actually improve your score. So, yep, it's fine to say it. It doesn't bring down your score, but also it's not improving your score. So I don't see why we would use our time to do something that doesn't improve the score. So it's not wrong, but I still would not suggest a sentence like, it's been a long time, Sammy. Okay. I hope you're doing well. So same with that. Again, those two sentences, we're not responding to the prompt. So we're not doing anything to improve our score. Guess what? I've got some wonderful news. So again, asking questions like that in an informal essay, that's actually fine. But again, we haven't got to the point. So you've written 4 sentences and you still haven't told your friend what the good news is. So you still haven't responded to the first prompt. Okay, the art gallery next to my house has chosen one of my photos. So that I would begin with that sentence. I would begin with that sentence and then, just say, what did it say? The gallery is selected to feature in an upcoming exhibition. So include that. So maybe the art gallery next to my house has chosen one of my photos for an exhibition that they are hosting in the near future. So finish that sentence, but it's actually the final sentence in your paragraph. Sorry, the final sentence in your comment is what I would use as the first sentence. So I would remove everything else. Again, it's not bringing down your score, but what we want is we want to bring that score up with every sentence we write. Hi, B. Winkle. As you already know, I am a nature photographer. And guess what? One of my clicked photo, we would say a photo that I took, we wouldn't say a clicked photo, that's not a phrase, was selected by the local art gallery to exhibit. We just say for their next exhibition. The when you're writing a letter, if your friend knows that you're a nature photographer, it would be unusual to say that. So I know it's a weird dynamic, because you're writing the letter for an examiner. In reality, the person reading your letter is the IELTS examiner, but you still have to kind of follow the context of the letter. So you want the examiner to know that you're pretending that you're a nature photographer, but you're not. If you're talking to your friend, they will know that already. So even though the reality is the IELTS examiner is the one reading it, you have to write the letter as if you are really writing to your friend. And you would never say something like that to your friend. Like, as you know, I'm a nature photographer. They know. If they're your friends, they will know that. So you can kind of assume shared information. Like another example would be, if you want to talk about your boyfriend, you're not going to say, oh, my boyfriend, John. You're going to say, John. You're not going to introduce, if it's your friend, they're going to know who John is. So the same thing like that. You don't need to give your friend information that your friend would already have. You don't need to write as if you're worried the examiner doesn't know who John is. John doesn't need to know who the examiner is. The examiner doesn't need to know who John is, because you're writing to your friend. So don't worry about over explaining things like this where you're pretending to be a photographer. You can just leave that type of stuff out. If in reality a friend would know that, well, then we'll just say what you would say to a friend. So there's no need for word introductions, just cut to the chase, right? Yeah, that's exactly what that's my approach. Yeah. I mean, you'll get plenty of IELTS teachers who will say, dear Linda, it's been a long time since I've written to you. But the fact is, like, when the examiner is counting the number of words that you've written, if you put something like that, like, I hope this letter finds you well, that's not even included in your word count. So when they're checking how many words you've written, they're checking the main paragraphs. They won't count I look forward to your reply. If you have that at the end, that's not counted in your word count. At the beginning, I hope this letter finds you well. That's not counted in your word count. So, it's traditionally what we would use. They're traditional phrases, they're conventional phrases that we use in letters, but they're not actually considered part of they're not considered as they're not taken into consideration when the examiner is deciding what score that you would get. So yeah, the short answer to your question is yes. The short answer is yes, exactly. Okay, so we're still looking for how we would develop the rest of this paragraph. So we have the first sentence, we need the rest of the paragraph. So it'll be another 1 or 2 sentences so that we have about 60 words, roughly about 60 words. Because for task 1, we want to aim for about 180 words in total. So that's about 60 words per paragraph, 3 paragraphs. So that's what you should be looking at. So when you're ready, share the rest of paragraph 1 with me, and then we'll put it on the screen and we will continue to the next one. While I'm waiting for you guys, a few of you are regular visitors to my site and my channel, but some of you are new. So I'm just going to tell you about my free live feedback lessons. Every week, I have lessons on Zoom, and they're my free group classes on Zoom for my email subscribers. So there's a link in the video description, but I can also share it with you here. So that's the link there. So if you click on that link, you can subscribe, and then every week I have free lessons on Zoom. Those cover all parts of the IELTS test. So just like I have with the live streams, we cover reading, writing, listening, speaking, task 1 and task 2, general training, academic, everything. So if you want to get involved, just click on that link and you can sign up for those. And we have a response from Alva. Okay, I didn't expect it since this was my first time submitting my portfolio to such a prestigious gallery. So it was a great surprise. Excellent. You're doing great here, Alva. Really on point. And what you'll see is Alva hasn't added any information that shouldn't be included. So, we don't want to talk about what the photograph was. We don't want to invite our friend because we need to do that later. Sometimes it can be difficult to continue talking about the same topic. I've already said what happened. I've already, outlined what the situation is. So there is an aspect of creative writing to general training task 1, where you need to come up with these ideas. You need to figure out how can I say something without going off topic. You've done a really good job here again, Alva. I didn't expect it. So we're talking about a situation. So we're going to say this. It would be a thing, but this is a situation. So I didn't expect this since this was my first time submitting my portfolio to such a prestigious gallery. So it was a great surprise. So a few mistakes with articles. So articles are something that you will need to spend some time on, Alva. But overall, in relation to content, structure, you're doing really, really well. Okay, so that brings us to 47 words. So it's a little bit, we're still a little bit short. So we're going to need a little bit more information. We're going to need a little bit more than that. Ahmad, in the band descriptor for band 8, the criteria reads, uses uncommon vocabulary. My question is, who decides that the vocabulary is uncommon or less frequent? And how do you decide that? So very often, when we're looking at vocabulary, we're looking at vocab that's specific to the topic. So if you just look at this piece of writing that Alva shared with us here, this word portfolio, I mean, that would be considered uncommon or less frequent. And the thing is as well, like how many topics can you discuss using the word portfolio? Can you talk about the environment? Can you talk about healthcare? Can you talk about politics? Can you talk about religion? Can you talk about sport? Like what other topics can you discuss using this word? Now none. It's very specific to the topic we're discussing. So, what Alva is showing is that she has vocabulary to discuss exactly the topic we're discussing. And what that shows is that she has a massive range of vocab because she has these precise words to discuss the specific topics. Now, of course, maybe Alva is an artist. So she's lucky and she's got a topic that she's really good at. That can happen. But in general, the assumption is if she's going to use words like portfolio when she's talking about art, it shows an in-depth knowledge of vocabulary. So that's what we're looking for when we're talking about, less common or less uncommon or less frequent words. So we're not looking for words that nobody uses. Like a very common word that you see on IELTS candidates writing is the word plethora. And I don't know where it came from, but the only people who use that word are students, are like IELTS candidates. So we're not looking for uncommon words, meaning words that nobody uses. you should be using words that everybody uses, but they're specific to the topic, and that's what makes them uncommon. Okay, so at the moment, we are not finished our paragraph. It's still a bit short. So what else can we say to fill up this paragraph? We need a bit more information. So share your ideas with me and we'll add to this a bit. No, I'm not. I just remember that word. Perfect. So again, that just shows, your range of vocab. So Alva's saying that she's not an artist, so she's not lucky that she's got a topic that she's really, that's in her own from her own strengths or her own interests. It's just she really does have a wide range of vocab. Sadiq, I have a question. I know all strategies of reading, but still have problem. What's your advice? My advice is to find out why you're getting your answers wrong. That's basically, you're doing something wrong. So it's not the strategies. If you know the strategies and you're getting answers wrong, then the strategies aren't the problem. And you need to analyze your mistakes and you need to figure out what you're doing wrong so that you can fix it. In the comments, I'm just sharing a link with you here, Sadiq. So if you see this reading strategy, just click on that link and you'll have more information about that. Okay, so we're still on paragraph 1. We need a little bit more information. What else can we say to develop our paragraph? So maybe something that would be easy to add is, just say a bit more about how you feel. Or you could say a little bit more about your response to the news. So let's say something like this. I'm just writing to tell you that my hometown gallery has decided to use one of my photos in their exhibition next summer. I didn't expect this since this was my first time submitting my portfolio to such a prestigious gallery, so it was a great surprise. I've been so happy since I found out, and I'm telling everybody I know about this piece of good news. Okay, so what have we now? 67 words. Okay, so that's fine. So from there, let's move on to the next prompt. It's describe the photograph. So our next prompt is to describe the photograph. Alva has, this would be amazing for my career. Yep, that'd be good. I'd avoid using one clause sentences if possible. So this would be amazing for my career, and maybe add a little bit more to that, because for grammar we need to have a range of complex and compound sentences. So if we can avoid having a simple sentence structure like this one, like this one, it would be better for our grammar. But the information is appropriate, so in that regard, it's perfect. Okay, so here's my next prompt for you. Write the first sentence of paragraph 2. So again, we want to describe, we want to respond directly to the prompt. So the prompt this time being describe the photograph. So in your first sentence, get straight into that. And again, share it with me in the comments. In business letters, we usually make use of functional language like apologizing, complaining, requesting, etc. Why would IELTS examiners consider these stock sentences or cliches? Well, they won't. I mean, no, you're expected to use the typical phrases. You know, I'm incredibly sorry. I have to apologize profusely. Like, no, I mean, you can use those. You can use those phrases. What when it becomes a problem is when you write sentences that don't seem to respond to the question. When you write sentences that would be used, that could be used in any essay where you're apologizing. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that that each sentence you write is written specifically to respond to the situation in the question. Show that your sentence is a response to the question and that your sentence is not something that you learned before you went to the test and that you're just going to use the sentence no matter what the question was about. So yes, of course, you use functional language. There's nothing wrong with using functional language. I would even encourage you to use functional language. But don't learn sentences. Don't learn complete sentences for the purpose of the IELTS test. Learn functional language that you can use as a direct response to whatever the question was. And that's the difference. So, you know, like if your sentence is something like, I must apologize profusely for the thing that happened, and I am so sorry that this situation has occurred, even though in a lot of ways it was outside of my control. It was like, what? I'm not even thinking of a question. I'm just writing a sentence about apologizing. So, you know, the functional language is fine. Just make sure it responds to the question. Okay. Winkle. The taken photograph, we wouldn't say the taken photograph, it would just be the photograph. We've already, the taken photograph, the photograph which was taken. So we're not going to, no, that wouldn't be a phrase. So just the photograph depicts a cat nursing its kitten. The lion is approaching the duo from the right and is hidden behind the tree, looking for an appropriate time to attack. Then to the left of the photograph, a group of people are fishing, completely unaware of their surroundings. Wow. It's a more exciting photo than I would have created in my mind. Very good. Okay. I would just say, like, yeah, let's take that and then we'll work with that. I'll just change it around a little bit. So let's add that in here. Okay. Now, the photograph depicts a cat nursing its kitten. Now, the thing about this is this wouldn't really be the main part of the photo because there's also this going on and this, like, there's a lot going on. So having this as the description, even though there's something incredibly exciting also in the photo. So it would be something like this, like in the foreground of the photo. In the foreground of the photo. What have I done wrong there? Of the photograph, there is a cat nursing its kittens, and to the right. Now we can't say the lion, because this, when you use the word the, what you're doing is, the word that means that both the reader and the listener know which one. So that is specific. So when you're writing, you know which lion, but when I'm reading, I don't know which lion. So when you're thinking about articles, you have to think about the relationship between what information do you have and what information does the reader have. And when it's shared information and you both know which one, that it's specific, then we can use that. But if you, the writer, are the only person who knows which one, then you can't use that, because it's not shared. It's not a shared understanding. So therefore, we need to use a lion. So to the right, a lion is approaching the duo and is hidden behind, and again, a tree for the same reason, behind a tree, looking for an appropriate time to attack. Then to the left of the photograph, now we don't need to say of the photograph, because we've already made it clear we're describing the photograph. So this is redundant, and this is this would be part of your coherence and cohesion score. So repeating unnecessary information would stop you from getting a good coherence and cohesion score. So then to the left, that's fine. We know to the left of what already. A group of people are fishing, completely unaware of, not necessarily unaware of their surroundings, unaware of what's happening, let's say. Okay, so that's really good. How many words have we? 51. So another short sentence. We're not quite there yet. So what I'll do is I'll just make all of this stuff a little bit smaller, just to try and get everything on screen. So what we'll have is the question, and that's enough there. Okay. It's a bit tricky to get everything on screen at the same time. If I make that a bit bigger here. Sorry, now, and a bit of mess in here. So let me just make that clear. So what we're doing is paragraph 2. Okay. So we still need to finish this paragraph. So can anybody tell me what else are we going to say here? We need about another 10 words. What can we say to finish this? So we need to continue describing the photograph. How can we do that? Sally, the photograph that I represented, or that I presented, not represented, you're after spelling photograph incorrectly as well, Salik. So the photograph that I presented to the local gallery is actually belongs to nationwide loved Leonardo da Vinci. It contains amazing natural views that attracts many people. No, so that, like, photography and Leonardo da Vinci, like that would have been a painting. So it isn't that you submitted a painting, it's that you submitted a photograph. I guess there's nothing in the question that says you didn't take the photograph. I think just from context, like typically if you're submitting a photograph to a gallery, it would be a photo you took. You wouldn't be submitting a photograph that someone else took. So Leonardo da Vinci, that's not a photograph, that's a painting. So it's not relevant for that reason. but also, you know, just the context it didn't specifically say you submit a photograph that you took, but I think the implication is there that it's most likely a photograph you took, you submitted it, and now they're after accepting it. So I think that would be the situation. Okay, so we're still looking at how to finish up paragraph 2. I later added a boundary to the contours of the picture. I think we would just go, I later added a boundary to the picture. So what I'll do is I'll just attach that even to the end. Okay, so I later added a boundary to a boundary. Let's say I later added a border to the edge of the picture. Something like that. Okay, good. All right, so that means we have most of the essay completed. So we have our sign on, paragraph 1, paragraph 2, all finished. I don't think we're going to be able to finish paragraph 3 during this lesson, but like it's obvious that you all understand what you're doing. So the next would be invite him or her to attend the exhibition with you. So you would the next step would be, you know, make sure you respond to that prompt in the first sentence of paragraph 3 and then continue developing the paragraph. So what we're really left with is how to sign off. So we're going to skip paragraph 3 for the lesson. Obviously, you would need to write it in your real essay. So the last thing that we need to do is sign off. So how would you sign off on this letter? So what would your sign off be? You are invited to our long-awaited exhibition that will be held in our auditorium. It would be great experience for both of us. Okay, so Salik, you're after jumping to prompt 3. This is too formal. You're writing to a friend. So you are invited to, that would be okay for a formal letter, but not for an informal letter to a friend. So that phrase isn't appropriate. Also, you're saying our auditorium, but that doesn't match the context of the question. So the question said that the local gallery, the local art gallery. So when we say your local art gallery, it doesn't mean that the art gallery belongs to you. It means that it's the local one in your city. So even though it says your local art gallery, it doesn't mean that you work there. It just means that there are no other art galleries that are closer to you. That makes it your local art gallery. So when you say our auditorium, that wouldn't be appropriate. And then an auditorium is more an auditorium. It's more like a theater or something for speeches. Maybe like lectures. It wouldn't be the type of a place. It wouldn't be the name of the area in an art gallery. So some vocab mistakes, tone mistakes with tone, mistakes with vocab. Alva, best wishes. Yep, that works perfectly. It's informal letter, so that's very important. Best wishes. And then we have the option of either signing off with our first name or our first name and our surname. So if we go We wrote this, Alva Ibarra. I'm sorry, now I know I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, but if we said this, why is that wrong? Why is that incorrect? If we write Alva Ibarra, well, it's incorrect because it's an informal letter. So we wouldn't include the surname. We would only include the first name like that. And that's essentially, that's a really strong answer. So obviously we didn't complete paragraph 3, so it's not a complete essay, but we've run through all the processes and all the steps that we would need to complete the full essay. So that's essentially how we would answer that question. Does anybody have any questions, or does anybody want to talk about anything before we finish up? We're essentially done. We're essentially done with that letter. So if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask or anything they'd like to talk about, please go ahead and ask. And beyond that, we're finished for today. Too formal, exactly, Alba. Yeah. How to distinguish an informal letter? Because you're writing to a friend. When you're writing to a friend, that's informal. So that's how you know. I also, let me just share, I have one-on-one coaching and IELTS courses. So like I was saying, I have free group classes. So, if you want to get involved in the free group classes, sign up with the link in the description. If you're looking for one-on-one coaching, if you're looking for more one-on-one hands-on support, I also have courses here. There's actually a 10% discount until the end of tomorrow. So now is a good time to join if you're looking for, more hands-on one-on-one. You want to work more closely with me. Now is a good time to join. Just send me an email here, lar@completetestsuccess.com. B. Winkle, the exhibition is taking place next Saturday in a city plaza. Why don't you join me? It would be fun. Yep, perfect. And then obviously you would need to develop the rest of that paragraph. Okay, so I think that's it for today. Well done to all of you. I think that was one of the stronger lessons that I've ever had, where really strong responses, good language, good vocab, good accuracy with grammar, content for the most part is relevant. So that was a really good response from all you guys today. Okay, so like I said, live feedback lessons tomorrow. I'll see you there. If not, I have another live stream this time next week, and also those one-on-one courses for those of you who need more support. So just email me about that. Okay, take care of yourselves and talk to you next time.